let's move into the Bulls trade deadline moves. Boomy, can you get into him a little bit? I know we talked
Yep.
about Vucevic at the beginning of the show.
Yep. The Cubs. Good God, the Bulls make two moves on the day. Let's get into the first one. They acquire All-Star Nikola Vucevic and Al Farouk Aminu. Real quick, guys, where did Al Farouk Aminu go to college?
Wake Forest.
Thank you. Good job, Maddie. Extra points. Anybody know Vucevic?
Montenegro, isn't he?
Oh, he's from Montenegro, but he went to USC.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
How long?
The Bulls pulled this off.
Do you know how many years he was there?
I think he was only there for a year or two, if I'm not. Maybe
don't remember him being there. That's great. That's
he
bad.
also I don't think went to the tournament when he was there.
Okay.
But, anyway, they finally move on from the Wendell Carter experiment. I thought it was kind of at its end there. They give up Wendell Carter, Otto Porter Jr., a 2021 first-round pick, which is top 4 protected, and a 2023 first-round pick, top 4 protected.
Guys, but if anyone is actually have a problem with the Bulls giving up these draft picks, then you don't understand what they've been trying to do for the last few years is rebuild. We need the draft picks. No, we need players who are good now and are proven players. And why would you not trade? Was it 2 first-rounders?
Yep. Well, whatever. They gave up their first rounder for this year. It's just probably at this point going to be 15,
we've
12,
already been in the spot where we're
not getting a franchise player. You get Vucevic for that pick then. Fuck it. That's how you get your start.
We always try to go for that pick, and then last year we lose out in the lottery.
You get a guy like that with your draft pick at 15 or 18, wherever they end up, and you'd be ecstatic. So I can't begrudge him for that at all.
And if things go right, and the rule is a lot of people were saying, they kept their 2022 first-round pick, but there's a rule in the NBA that you cannot trade consecutive first-round picks in the same trade, I believe. But, yeah, you pick up a guy who's averaging 24 points right now, who's increased his points per game for the last 5 seasons. Al Farouk Aminu is going to be around for maybe the end of this year. I don't know how much longer his contract is, but he plays good defense, and he was just one of those pieces that had to be thrown in. It's kind of a
version of Otto Porter.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
A better fit for the Bulls anyway.
I think Otto Porter is kind of maxed out what he is. We all know who Otto Porter is, what he does, and what he can do, and he is who he is.
He's getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And
they don't need a wing that can score like Porter.
Right.
Hey,
exactly.
It's nice to get some veterans around Zach LaVine. I mean, it's nice having the rookies there and some of the younger guys, but come on, we need some veterans there. What the nice thing is what I know Boom isn't getting the next trade, but what this is doing is maybe we can make the playoffs this year, and you have 2 All-Stars, and then that's how you get free agents attracted to the Bulls.
I want to ask Boomy a question though, from a coach's perspective. When you have a player, and I know you're not coaching at the NBA level by any means, but when you have any kind of player on your team that you see more talent than they're putting out on a daily basis, and they're more talent than they're putting out in practice, which is what it seems like on a daily basis, like in Wendell Carter, where you see these things in college and certain skill sets that just didn't translate. And what do you do to get how do you deal with that? What do you do to try to tap into that? I mean,
especially at the NBA level, it's got to be difficult because, a lot of that's going to come down to what they're doing in the off season and what they're doing, outside of the practices you have, because Wendell Carter is so frustrating because, look, I mean, he's only been a Bull for 3 seasons. He's been hurt a lot.
Showed so much flash though. There's pieces at times that it's this guy could be good.
Right. It's one of those things where he has to dedicate, to not only, I think the biggest thing with a Wendell Carter type player is getting him healthy and being able to sustain an 82-game season, because he really hasn't been able to do that his entire career. I mean, I say entire career, he's been in the NBA 3 years, but he's yet to play a full season.
If you've been injured that many times in a very short career, then what do you expect to happen more and more, especially for a big guy?
Man, it takes a beating down low.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you got to look at it from he's got to you hate to say it like this, but he has to be the most dedicated to it because he's got to see the film. He's got to work on every little thing in the off season. And obviously it's been a weird, 12 months, but at the end of the day, like I agree with you, Matt, because like, where do you get to a point where you start transitioning to a role player instead of being a full-time, in the middle of the rotation guy? Because right now you want him to be a middle of the rotation on the floor all the time, but he's just not. At the end of
if you're Orlando, you've got to play him 38 minutes a night at this point, don't you? See what you did out of him.
Got to get that experience.
See what's there. Like
exactly.
Use point to see what's there, and
And I think for what Orlando's doing, I think Wendell Carter is a promising piece to throw in that trade because the kid's like 22 years old, and you give up a 30-year-old all-star, but they are literally starting from scratch. They trade Vucevic, they trade Evan Fournier, they trade Aaron Gordon. I mean, like they're tearing down to
Terrence Ross and Cole Anthony are all that's left.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to find out in the next whatever they have 29 games left, if you're the Magic, what you have in this piece that you acquired, and then you go from there into the offseason and turn him into the where you hope that he can be. But he's got to dedicate himself to first, I think, getting healthy, and then you move on from there as far as skill set, because he does have skill. I mean, I think we can all agree. We've seen him, like you said, Matt, flashes, but his inconsistency with being on the court has been extremely detrimental to the progress that he's made in the last 3 years.
Is that the most frustrating type of player to have on your team as a coach?
Yeah, when you can see the potential and it just doesn't, like you have these visions in your head of what it can be and what you
expect it to be.
At the end of the road you are. Yeah, that's frustrating, man. That is very frustrating, and you almost feel like bad for the guy, especially when you're talking injury laden. The guy can't catch a break. He can't stay uninjured. It's like you see it and you hope that he sees it, but then at the end of the day, there's these little nagging things that get in the way of it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It's also another good reason why the Bulls got Vucevic is because he's a proven good player.
Vucevic is the finished product of what Wendell Carter can be.
Yeah, and that's what these two draft picks are going to be, is just hopefully get a good player. It's like now we actually got a player that is good.
Yes. Yep. And I think a lot of this, I mean, and I'll get into the next trade, but I think a lot of this is, our Arturas Karnisovas really putting his stamp down and saying, listen, this is what I'm here to do. And he took that young core, very young core, and kind of, threw it out the window. Not necessarily threw it out the window, but definitely stirred the pot a little bit.
And that's what we haven't had a front office that actually wants to win. It's always, we want to rebuild. We have to take a few years and rebuild.
It's a lot of feet dragging.
We can win now. Not saying they're going to win a championship by any means, but they can
win a first round series
for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Now.
And then you get into the playoffs with a team that you think is above average. Then you let free agency happen. You have a new front office. You're the third most populated city in the country, and no one before this could get a free agent to come to Chicago. That's embarrassing. You have to take that as a front office. It's like, this is our mission now. We have to be able to get big name free, at least one big name.
As a free agent, you have to see, now they're making moves. They actually want to win. So that's also because every trade deadline, it's like when it was Garpax, it was like, you got nothing. And now it's like, they're looking to make a move.
That's just it. If you're a high-end basketball player, professional player that's trying to get a ring, and that's your end game at this point in your career, what more do you want to see? You don't want to see good weather. That doesn't matter. You don't care about all the other shit. You don't care what the city's like because you have the money to leave that city whenever you want to leave it. So where you live per se during the season doesn't really matter. If you want a ring, you want a team that's committed to win a ring, and that's what's going to bring people. Chicago's a great city. It's got enough of a draw. No one's going to be playing in Jordan's shadow at this point. They want to see people. They want to see a commitment to win, and I think we might have it.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, the other move the Bulls pulled off, they were not able to acquire Alonzo Ball, who was the big name floating around. I believe I've heard, via the internet, different places, that this is kind of building a foundation for possibly a sign-in trade with Lonzo and the Pelicans this summer. So we'll see. But the other trade that went down, the Bulls end up that left the roster was Daniel Gafford and Chandler Hutchinson are heading to the Wizards, and Luke Cornett is heading to the Celtics. thank God. The Bulls end up acquiring Troy Brown, Daniel Theis, Javonte Green, and Cash. I like Daniel Theis. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Theis. He is just a big, big physical man. And you shed, like I said, Karnisovas kind of clearing out some of that old stuff. Daniel Gafford, Chandler Hutchinson, Luke Cornett. I mean, you're really, getting rid of. I saw a great tweet that was like they're basically getting rid of all the softness from the past, and that's definitely what this second deal feels like.
Hot seat marketing.
I think they were.
I think he might be in the sign and trade for Lonzo Ball.
And I had heard that they had tried that straight up, and they just the Pelicans weren't going to take it.
What's his contract?
Lowry,
he's a restricted free agent at the end of this year, just like Ball is.
Okay,
that's why they're kind of like the perfect fit for like a sign and trade or even just a regular trade if you could build the rest of the pieces around it. But I don't want to mortgage a bunch on Lonzo Ball. I think he's an interesting player. I think he'd probably be a great point guard fit for LaVine just because he doesn't need to score, 30 to carry it. Let's not kid ourselves, though. The point guard position in the NBA at this point is Damian Lillard. It's, Steph Curry. It's Trae Young. It's Luka. You need a guy that can run things. And I just want to make sure we got a guy that can run things. You know what I mean?
And I'd heard that the asking price was Laurie and Colby White, and I think the Bulls, that's where they drew the line. I agree.
One or the other.
For an average or maybe, at times above average point guard.
If it's Melo Ball, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I was wrong on Melo Ball regardless of the injury. I was definitely wrong on that kid.
Yeah, I mean the kid starts, gets into the starting lineup, and
he was going to be the rookie of the year.
He was definitely going to be rookie of the year.
Very good point.
Can you do that still? You think?
I mean, it depends. If they voted it, but I don't think you'd see the NBA writers.
Well, I mean, if you look at, I know we're getting off track here, but the other rookies, I mean, Anthony Edwards has been average at best. I mean, Patrick Williams is not, rookie of the year, in my opinion. He's playing his part very well, but I still think even injured, with what we've looked at so far and, in this season, that LaMelo Ball has clearly been the best rookie. And I, like you, Matt, I will raise my hand. Very wrong.
Shout out! I want to real quick. Patrick Williams, I think, was a fantastic pick. I think that dude.
Absolutely.
Oh my God! We haven't even talked about the fit with Vucevic, LaVine, and him. Because if he's going to end up being your third piece, which I'm not ruling out. I'm not ruling out that he can be a cornerstone to a team. So I think the ceiling is to that point for him. I think he could be an all-star caliber NBA player if he goes the right way.
The Bulls play again Saturday, 7:30 in San Antonio. Do they have these players?
That's a good question.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah,
I think that just has to clear physical.
If they can get there and probably pass a COVID test at this point, I'm sure that's all it requires.
That'll be an exciting game to watch on a Saturday. Anything else, Boomy?
Man, I just have to say that the NBA trade deadline is without a doubt the funnest trade deadline that there is.
And it's not always this exciting, though. No. This year, it was awesome.
Well, yeah, remember, what was it? Probably at this point, it was probably 10, 11 years ago when they traded Nocioni and they got John Solomons was at the trade deadline acquisition and stuff. It's just like you go from that point, and it's a lot more fun when you get an all-star caliber player for a good package.
Yes.